I'm ready. Okay, so welcome to our Wells Fargo volunteers. I'm Erin with the California Restaurant Foundation, and this is Natalie. Together, we are working on our biggest volunteer day of the year, which is Force in Training. We've been doing this for about 11 years. Um, it is a volunteer day to prepare high school culinary arts students for their first job in restaurants. So that's what our foundation does. We change lives through restaurants. We do the important work of workforce development, community improvement, ending the cycle of poverty, all those wonderful things through restaurants and the opportunities that they provide. So look at all these beautiful sponsors on the page. Volunteers from these hospitality companies will be going into local high school culinary arts classes on October 24th to teach job readiness. And Natalie's going to get into it, but I want you to know that Wells Fargo is our main sponsor for this event and helping us make this job training possible, and you're joined by these incredible hospitality companies. So let's dive into what the actual day will be and what your important role will be.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks. So to just do a brief overview of what FIT is and what's going to happen, I know Erin mentioned, but it's going to take place on October 24th. And for you, it's going to be a 90-minute time frame. You won't necessarily need to participate in all 90 minutes, but I want to give you the scope of what's going to be taking place. So the first 60 minutes, it's going to be restaurant industry presenting on job readiness training. The students are going to learn about mock interviews and elevator pitches, and then do introductions. And of course, we'd like Wells Fargo to be part of that introduction piece as well, so the students aren't kind of left wondering, like, who are those people in the corner that haven't spoken yet? That way they just know who you are. And then in the last 30 minutes, that'll be your turn for the Wells Fargo team to present on financial basics. And just to recap, you'll be covering the Sacramento and LA area only, and I'll be matching you. So this is also a virtual training available to 140 high schools across the state.
Just to clarify that. So we work with 140 high schools, and they will all be getting virtual job readiness and financial health training. So it'll include videos, student workbooks, all throughout the week. So 1 week of activity, of training, and then on this one day of October 24th, that's when we bring the in-person volunteers to kind of bring it to life. So our industry folks will be presenting on how to land a job. So interview skills, resume writing, elevator pitches. And then you, our Wells Fargo volunteers, will be talking about financial health. And the connection is, you got your first paycheck, now what? Right? So if these students are going to go out into the workforce and get their very first job, what the heck do they do with that first paycheck? I can guarantee you, most of these students have never even seen a check. So we're going to have to start there. Usually we reach about in person on one single day, 3,500 students across the state, across 40 different high schools. And so it's all happening on one day in Sacramento, LA, and all over the state. Next.
Yeah. Okay, so do the breakdown of the rundown of the 90 minutes. It's going to be 10 minutes of introductions, and that'll be all of the restaurant industry professionals as well as yourselves to do a quick intro. And then the next 20 minutes will be the industry professionals working on elevator pitches. And then the 30 minutes will be on mock interviews. And then the final 30 minutes will be the financial education basics for all the students. So what to cover? First paychecks. Like Erin mentioned, you got your first paycheck, now what? And also, what does a paycheck look like? All the deductions and things like that. I'm sure you've seen, or maybe it's just the algorithms for me. But on TikTok or Instagram, there's like the videos where the kids open their first paycheck and they're reading it and they're seeing all these deductions because they thought they'd be making like $800, but after deductions, it's like not the $800 when they did the math in their head. So figuring out the first paycheck and then what to do with it, checking versus saving accounts, how to define that, and what the needs are. So if it's groceries, where are you pulling that from? If it's saving for college, where are you pulling that from, or where are you saving that for? And then what happens when they're ready to spend the money? What are their options on how to spend that money? And then also covering goals. So small term financial goals, and then also big term financial goals.
We'll pause right here. Heidi's saying she can't hear audio. Can everybody, if you can hear us, can you write it in that you can hear us? Is it only a Heidi issue, or is it an everybody issue?
Oh,
I can hear you guys. It's Allison.
Okay, great. The Heidi can hear us now too. Thank you.
Okay, so yes, I'll go on to the next slide. But you don't need to worry. You'll have a guide. So we have this quick snapshot guide of you that you could either print with you or download on your phone. And it'll just talk about introductions again, dream big. So congrats, you got the job, now what? And talk about first paycheck. And I think it's always fun for the students if you say if you remember what you got with your first paycheck. I remember one student or one industry professional was like, yeah, I got a Walkman. And the kids were like, what is a Walkman? Why would you waste your money on this? So it's always fun to lighten the mood if you can share what you spent your first paycheck on.
And I should mention for our Wells Fargo volunteers that we are not doing any decks, AV, or presentation. So this is very conversational. And again, you don't have to wing it. We have this guide that breaks down, spend a couple minutes on this, ask the kids these questions. So it's a very structured discussion, and you'll most likely be with another Wells Fargo volunteer. But like Natalie said, to get the students excited and ready for this conversation, we'll open it up with, what do you all want to spend your first paycheck on? Here's what I spent my first paycheck on. And if you want to make them laugh, tell them how much you used to make. My first paycheck was $5.25 an hour as a host at an Italian restaurant.
It's funny you say that, Erin, because I was thinking about it. I'm like, oh, $20 an hour, huh? I was making $5 an hour.
Yeah, cool. And I remember it was like $5.25 to $5.50, and I was like, yeah. So this will be funny conversation. You can be a little lighthearted with it. And then Natalie, do you mind if I go down this list?
Go for it.
Just kind of, okay. So you'll dream big. What do you all want to spend money on? They might say, I want to save up for a car. I want college. I want to buy Nikes, like whatever they're going to talk about, right? And then we have some questions you'll ask them. Then we'll go over, okay, so that's what you want to do. What about your first paycheck? And we're going to kind of outline the math a bit about that they will have deductions taken out. And I think a few of you have heard this story before, but it's true. A few years ago, we had a student who was working at a restaurant for 2 weeks, doing amazing. She did great. And then all of a sudden she just ghosted, didn't show up, didn't say anything. The employer called us and said, what the heck? Natalie, whoever, was doing great. Where is she? And we called her, and she quit or ghosted because she thought her employer was stealing from her, because she thought, I'm working, $20 an hour, let's say, for 5 hours, I should be getting $100, but her paycheck was, $81 or something. And she freaked out. So kind of explaining that there will be deductions in their student printout that they'll have. It'll have an image of a check that will show standard deductions taken out. So that's first, is like what you're going to expect on your first paycheck. That's not going to be your $20 an hour whole, right? Then we're going to talk about what to do with that first paycheck. You're going to need to set up a checking and savings account. And what's the difference between both? Checking for your day-to-day expenses, savings for saving. Then we'll talk about, there are some more detail, obviously, in that work, in that guide. But then after you talk about the difference between checking and saving and how to direct deposit perhaps your check, then we'll talk about, okay, you're ready to spend. How do you spend that money? Are you using a debit card? And how is that linked? How is that different than a credit card, for example? So, debit card is taking from money you already have from your checking account, where credit is you're getting credit for that, and that you will have to pay interest if you don't pay that off. So the whole concept of interest and credit, these are going to be very new concepts. We're talking super basics here, really, really basics. And then we're going to end with some goal setting, right? And they have an activity on their printout of goal setting of, I want to save for college, I want to save for a car, looking towards the future and budgeting for that with their first job. Okay. Natalie, we're going to fly through these and then we'll ask some questions at the end. I think this will all be clear.
Yeah, and then something nice that we developed also is a financial basics student packet for them as well. So it has some basic financial terminology and a breakdown of a paycheck. Our goal is to not scare the kids as well. I think it's really nervous and daunting to think about loans, debit, credit, what is all of this? And so to just have a frank, honest conversation with them, outlining what this, and this are, I think will really help them and set them up further. So we have, like I mentioned, we do have a student packet, and at the bottom, we have them right there, short-term financial goals, long-term goals, and then how they plan on achieving it. And then tips from a veteran, because this is always helpful, but swag, if you want to bring some items for prizes or any students that say there may be students there that already have jobs and have had their first paycheck. So maybe you could call on them and be like, what did you spend your first paycheck on? How did you feel about that? Like, what was it like for you? And some of them might be honest, it was a lot less than I thought. You don't need to bring swag for everyone as well. And it could be a variety, 5 keychains or 5 notepads, something like that. And then also branding. Of course, Wells Fargo is our title sponsor for this event. So we would love to see as much Wells Fargo branding as possible. So if you have any polos or name badges, feel free to wear that. And then what to do if students don't volunteer or don't raise their hand. If you catch an outgoing student in the room, you could feel free to call on them. I'll also have the teacher on site to help with classroom management. So they might be able to chime in and assist as well. Ideally, you show up 15 to 20 minutes early. School campuses are just getting larger and larger. There are multiple parking lots. What if your presentation time is around the same time as school starting and now you're backed up and stuck in traffic? So just a lot of moving pieces. So if you get there early, it allows for less hiccups during fit day. And then if allowable, take pictures. These are minors. So just ask the teacher if it's okay to take pictures. All the photos in this deck that we've shared are from past fit days. So we can't be at every school. So we love to see what every fit day at every school looks like. And then if your plans change, let us know. We know things happen. If you could just let us know as soon as possible, that way we could pivot and move people around and make sure that every school is covered. That's great. And then, so what's next? You'll be getting an email from me, Natalie, introducing you to your time slot, your school, and any co-volunteers. And by co-volunteers, I mean 2 parts, right? You may be partnered with a Wells Fargo person, but you'll also be there with industry professionals from Cheesecake Factory, Habit Burger, Cisco, any one of our other sponsor partners for this.
And I think a few of you on the call registered through Wells Fargo volunteer platform and not necessarily through ours, which is fine. So I'm going to send you all, before we could do this, I'll send you an email with the schools we have in Los Angeles County and Sacramento, and you can tell me which one is closest to you, and that's the school we'll match you with. So be on the lookout for an email from me today, and we hope to get you your time slot in your school by the end of the week.
Yeah, ideally we have every school covered, but we of course want to make this manageable and easy for you. So we don't want you driving across town from, Laverne all the way to the west side in Manhattan Beach. So when Erin sends that out, we'll send out schools, and hopefully there's one near you. And then touching back on my introduction matching email, I'll also include where to park at the school, where to check in, the number of approximate students that you'll be presenting to. That way you have a scope and idea. If you want to bring out handouts or printed materials, you know how many to bring. And then you'll also have the teacher's email and cell phone. They will be copied on the email as well. And then that should be it. You'll know your co-volunteers and what companies they come from, because I'll do the introductions and note that as well. So starting this week and early next week, you'll know where you go. But first, Erin will send that the roster of schools in LA, so we know where to place you. And then that's it. That pretty much covers it. If you have any questions, feel free to unmute or go in the chat box and let us know if you have any questions.
This is a very unique volunteer opportunity, and I promise you it works so smoothly. So trust in the process. We'll match you with a great school, and you'll have just a ton of fun going over some of these financial basics. And you have the opportunity to set these students up for a really strong future. Imagine being 16, 17 and getting really credible, good information about checking, saving, credit, direct deposit, saving for goals. This is really a pivotal time in their life when they're getting their money for the first time, and you can help them manage it and make great decisions. So we're just thrilled with this partnership with Wells Fargo, because for years we've been teaching students how to land a job and get a job. We haven't had this important component of what to do with that first paycheck, and that's what we're so excited about.
No questions. Just really excited to be a part of this. Erin and Natalie, thank you for having us. And I've done a lot of these presentations to even younger kids, right? Talking about basics of banking and what a bank does, and all the way to the high school. And I think we're going to do Losinger, which I was there 5 years ago doing financial literacy to high school seniors. So I'm excited. I hope that's where we're going. But yeah, no, it's such a great time to start and really talk through, to your point, what's next, right? So thank you for having us be a part of it.
Well, thanks, Allison. Yeah, I think you're with Alice Suarez at Losinger, because we got your registration. So I think we're matching you there.
Awesome.
Great. Well, if that's it, email, text me or Natalie if you have any questions, and be on the lookout for my email today and Natalie's email later this week with your matching. So thank you, Wells Fargo volunteers.
Thank you all. Have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.